Hello and welcome to another session of otherTwoCents. In this episode, we're discussing the life, profession, and experiences of Ebenezer Atu Kwamina Smith. Ebenezer, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. And it's great to have you on this session, actually.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Right. So let's go right back to the beginning. If you like what we're doing on this channel, please like our video, leave a comment, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing.
Yeah, I'm Ghanaian and South African. So I was born in Ghana, in Winneba. So I'm a Fante guy. My parents, my mother from Cape Coast, father from Winneba. Born in Winneba, stayed there 5 years, and then we moved to SA. So I've been here basically my whole upbringing has been down this side in South Africa. So I'm part of a big family. My mom, 6 children, so 5 siblings. So we grew up in a very big home. But then I have other siblings from, my pop's previous marriage and whatnot. So 5 other siblings. So we were a very big family.
All right, that sounds really interesting. Were all your siblings with you when you moved to South Africa?
Yeah. We all moved to South Africa at the same time, all 6 of us. So my dad moved to SA, I think a year later. So back in 1990 or so. So about a year later, we all moved. My mom and the 6 kids, we all came down at the same time. So we've all been together whole lives, yeah.
So you're 5 years old. You've moved to South Africa. It must have been incredibly exciting. Tell us about your childhood, how things developed from the age of 5 until just about when you were about to start university.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, really. So we moved to a town called Mthatha, which was the capital of the then homeland. And if you know the history of South Africa, with the whole apartheid legacy and whatnot, So when I started school, I was the only Black kid in my class, though I was in the capital of the homeland, which is like Black country, right?
Wow.
So it was a very white school. It was pretty much an international school. There were like 50 nationalities represented in the school or so. It was very, very international. So I started with that sort of upbringing, there was me, one Black kid, and there was an Indian kid, and the rest were all white kids, And as the years progressed, slowly more Black people started joining the school. So funny enough, schools in that town have sort of now flipped, where you might find one white kid and the rest are, so things have turned around quite a bit. But that's the sort of upbringing I had. It was a very nice upbringing. Lots of friends. Almost everybody in my neighborhood went to the same school. Lots of children the same age as me. My later years of high school, I went to boarding school, which was also a pretty interesting experience. Then got ready for university. Basically, that's that in a nutshell. That was, yeah.
Right. So for most kids, certainly for my childhood and adolescence, I had ambitions. Kids dream of becoming things like an astronaut or, professions like becoming a doctor or a lawyer and things like that. Conversations like that tend to happen within the, the nucleus of the African family. Were there any ambitions during this period before you started university?
Absolutely. So I had the ambition of becoming a pilot. That's something I always wanted to be. My whole childhood, that's something I always talked about. I just thought that was the most amazing thing. So in the more formative years, I always just wanted to be a pilot. And sort of early high school, I started realizing that there were more careers involved in the aeronautical sort of industry. And then I changed from wanting to be a pilot to wanting to be an aeronautical engineer. That was going into high school, primary school heading into high school. And sort of my mid high school, the second year of high school or so, my older brother, started studying architecture. So he would come home some holidays with some of his work, drawings and those sort of things. We have a very technical family. So my two brothers, one's an architect, one's an engineer. My dad is an engineer. So it's a pretty technical family in the built environment. So my brother would come home with these drawings and this artwork, and I would be so fascinated. And from there, all my aeronautical engineering and piloting dreams just went out the window, and I wanted to be an architect. So
Right.
from pretty early in high school, that was what I wanted to be, and I went to do that as well. So that was nice.
It's I don't know whether that's a coincidence or what. Because of my dad's profession, I wanted to be an airline pilot as well. Fortunately, when I came to the UK at about 16, I got the opportunity to start gliding. So I am actually a solo glider pilot, but for one reason or another, actually never got to pursue the whole airline pilot dream. But aviation is something that from about the age of 5, actually, I was hooked onto it, and it still remains. In fact, if I had the
Nice.
opportunity now, I would still take it, even though I've done a whole bunch of other things. But that's another conversation. Um, so it's pretty clear now that your ambitions had changed. You're looking more into architecture, and you're going to university to study this. Tell us a little bit about the experience you had at university.
Yeah, so that was a pretty interesting one. Along with all the freedoms that you get going into university, architecture is one of those courses. It's not necessarily hard; it's just very demanding of your time. So, you would go into the studio, into architecture studio. Sometimes you wouldn't come out for like 5 days, the whole weekend. You go in on a Friday, you come out on a Monday morning type thing, So it was very demanding. You didn't have time to go out and club like other people, party and just, so you really demand a lot of your time. That was interesting for me. But personally, I wasn't an outgoing kind of person anyway. So I spent a lot of time in the studio with my colleagues or my fellow students, and went through architecture and then graduated, and then started working.
So you've spent, I'm presuming, the usual 6 years in university studying architecture. You've come out of uni, you've gone into the corporate world. Give us a brief, if you like, breakdown of what that experience was like in South Africa.
So luckily for me, so again, I think what really helped me was that I had a brother, an older brother who sort of went ahead of me in the same career path. So there was a lot I could learn from him, a lot I got from him as well. So when I started studying, he was sort of wrapping up, and he was working at an architecture practice in town, the biggest architecture practice in town. So I think I took my first year holidays, enjoyed the holidays, and basically from there, I never took a holiday. Every single holiday, I would work at this firm. I just went there, knocked on the door, spoke to the boss, said, "Hey, I'm studying architecture. I would love to get some experience during my holidays," and doing whatever, just getting office experience. And they were more than happy to allow that, So I was very fortunate that when I finished studying, in fact, I only realized much later that I actually don't even have a CV. I never had the need to, because as soon as I finished, I just said to my boss, "Hey, I'm graduating, I finished, can I get a job?" And he's like, "Yeah, continue." They just increased my salary package, and that was it. It was literally a 2-minute conversation, So it was easy for me like that, getting into the corporate, and I had already had all that experience from all those years of working during the holidays. So I never struggled with getting employment or fitting into a corporate scene, etc. It just seamlessly flowed.
So I think for all the transitions that I've heard in terms of people going from uni to the corporate world, that's probably one of the most seamless I've come across. I mean, like most other people, I finished, went through the whole job application process and then eventually landed one. So it sounds like yours was a much better experience. So at this point, you're working, you're probably making good money as a junior architect, presumably. how did you go from that to deciding you wanted to start your own enterprise?
Now that is an interesting journey. Funny enough, it actually involves the country you're in. So when I started working, I worked my first year of employment. I had planned it and I sort of saved money. And then later in the year, around August or so, or August, October, I'm not sure, later in the year, I then told my boss I want to take some time off. I want to take, 2-3 months off. And I hit Europe, young guy, when sort of all my visas out. I was actually planning to go to the US, but then so I looked at it and I thought, well, okay, for the price of going to explore the US, I could do multiple countries in Europe. So that I chose the Europe route. And so I went to Europe. I actually went around the UK and I went to Poland. Right. So as I mentioned, my dad had the past in Poland, studied there, etc. He actually got married there and whatnot. So I have half Polish family that I'd never met. So I decided, I want to go see them. So I went. But the interesting thing in terms of the career path, there's something that happened to me in London, in Canary Wharf. So Canary Wharf. So one day I'm standing, there's, when you come out the train station, there's that sort of plaza and all these buildings around, with these sort of financial institutions and whatnot. And then Absolutely. At like 5 o'clock, all the buildings sort of leak, all these people in suits, and it was quite a culture shock for me, different, because it seemed to me as people don't necessarily knock off and go home. What I saw was people sort of bled out onto the plaza and sort of networked, like, beer in hand, and they would talk, But anyway, so I'm walking one afternoon. I got caught in that 5 o'clock or so time, and I was walking to the train station. And this is the definitive moment in my professional life.
Okay.
This I'm walking towards the train station, and then this young guy walks past me in the same direction. And I'm probably I'm 23, maybe 22 or so. And this guy looked like he was 18, maybe even 17, who knows? But he just looked young. And he had this seemingly $1 million suit on. He had this briefcase and he had this fat phone on his ear. And he just looked like $1 million. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, what am I doing with my life? So I'm pretty young, but I'm seeing this younger guy who just seems to be there. Wherever I dream of being, he seems to already be there. That just hit me like a ton of bricks. Something just clicked, and that was the turning point. So I came back to South Africa. Immediately, I called 2 of my friends to dinner. Guys, let's sit down. And that's where we started talking business. I told them the experience, and I said, we need to do more. But sometimes you get very comfortable in your environment, and you don't realize that, you sort of going along with the flow of things, and you not realize that you need to do more. Something needs to disrupt and sort of shake things up and charge you up to do a lot more.
You've had that epiphany, and now the business is started. Now, first of all, congratulations on doing that at such a young age, because not many people are able to pull that off. Now, tell us exactly what the enterprise is about. What do you do? How does he do it? What sort of skills and capabilities does it have?
Okay, so I think what people need to appreciate is sometimes people are afraid of failure, and you'll always hear it when you talk to entrepreneurs. Everybody will always talk about don't be afraid to fail. That if you actually don't fail, you're not trying hard enough, or you're not innovating enough if you don't fail. So we actually started so I'm studying architecture, or I just finished studying architecture. My buddies, one did law and another one did business management. And we decided we're going to start an advertising company. Fair enough, young aspiring entrepreneurs, we tried our level best, but that didn't necessarily work. And it got to a point where I realized that, maybe we're not utilizing the skill set that we have, because none of us have advertising experience. We don't know the industry. We just came up with a really great idea, bought some really innovative products from China, and we try to sell them. So we decided, myself and the one business partner, we decided, why don't we branch off the business into our spheres of experience. So he started a business management wing to the company, and I started the architecture wing to the company. And we realized that immediately, almost immediately, it started taking off. So I think it's important sometimes to use your skill set and don't necessarily try to do just about anything, but something that you're skilled to do. So we started that, and that went very well. And at a later stage, we decided to bring an IT component to the business. So we brought on two partners who have IT background. And eventually I decided, or in fact, some of the partners asked me to take over the IT business because I had a bit more corporate experience than the other guys, So I took that over and very quickly saw that the upside to that business greatly outweighs the architecture or anything else. The potential for growth there was just too massive. So then I started focusing all my energy into that business and started, really, applying myself there. And that's where I am today. So to come to the question of what it is the company does, it also went through growth. We started out just doing your basic websites, corporate image stuff, logos, letterheads, that basic sort of stuff. And slowly we progressed, and now we are a full-on web systems, mobile applications sort of company. We do big corporate systems, etc. So that's where we are. We're pretty big in the web systems and mobile application space.
If there's any IT firm out there wanting to get in touch, what is the name of this company? How do they reach you? What is your engagement, if you like, stream like? Is it remotely done? Do you send people over? Just give us a little bit about, the details, the specifics about the company.
So the company is called Proficia IT, right? So that's PROFECIAIT. Proficia IT, our website, proficiait.co.za. You can check that out at any time. You can contact us there. We've got a contact form on there that, we'll be in touch if you hit us up there, or we have contact details as well. You could ring. But generally, what we also realized very quickly was we realized that sort of starting a business and waiting for customers to come to you can get frustrating at times. So we then started developing our own systems that we then took to market. So being proactive in that way, not waiting for anybody to come to us, but rather we go to them. So we have systems that are very big in the public sector. So that's our focal area, public sector clients. So we generally automate a lot of public sector processes. So we basically have a suite of productivity tools that allow you to be more productive, allow your resources, your personnel to be more productive and drive efficiency. So that is something that is sort of rung home even more now in the Corona time, in that people want to be more effective, or at least as effective as they previously were, but from home or wherever they may be. So that is what we do primarily.
How is Proficia making a difference in South Africa? How would you distinguish yourself from any number of IT companies that may well be in South Africa?
Well, innovation. I think innovation is the key thing. So for us, again, I'll speak to sort of the public sector arena. So public sector personnel or managers often have, companies that will come and present all kinds of solutions, etc. I think ours, it comes from a deep understanding of public sector processes to begin with. From my sort of background in the architecture space, dealing a lot with public sector clients, we did a lot of projects for government. So I got to understand that sphere a bit, and also just engaging with a number of friends in that space. So we have a deep understanding of processes, right? And you will really be surprised to find just the lack of systems that exist in that space. So that's the first thing, that there's huge opportunity in that space. And then the second thing is that the solutions that we then offer, we push innovation. And innovation is something that you have to do as an organization all the time. The minute you stop innovating is the minute you start dying. So we always push innovation. So that is our area, and everything we do is web system coupled with mobile application. I think that's another space that not every company does. So we really allow that sort of remote access to your data from wherever you are. You could be sitting in an airport lounge waiting for a flight. You could be sitting, lying in bed, or whatever the case. So the mobile app component just sort of really makes data, getting to that data a lot easier, a lot streamlined. So that's our real sort of advantage, that we have, that we take to market. Our flagship product is called Project Tools, right? Project Tools currently has so if you can think about Project Tools, we are also Microsoft partners. We're cloud solutions providers. So we basically, we don't try to reinvent the wheel in terms of sort of our structure, our corporate structure. We basically follow a lot of the Microsoft sort of model. So if you look at Microsoft Office, right, it's a suite of productivity products. You've got Office, you got Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and the list goes on. So Project Tools is our flagship product, and it's also a suite of productivity tools, right? We've got a whole lot of tools, and the sort of big child in that one is one called citizen engagement. And that really looks at how public sector communicates with their service delivery recipients and how those service delivery recipients communicate back. So, in there, you've got about 6 or 7 subsystems within that one alone. So oftentimes you'll find most municipalities or public sector clients will look at maybe a website and as a separate thing from a mobile application, as a separate thing from any other system. So with our one, citizen engagement, it starts from a website that's coupled with a web app, coupled with a mobile application, coupled with a content management system, a case management system, a survey management system, all into one. And that we really believe it gives you the most robust engagement platform for you to be able to hear from your service delivery recipients and them to speak to you. So if, for instance, a light is burst on the street outside your house, generally the process would be you would pick up a phone, you would call, you would hold the line, and somebody would take your call, log that case, and that thing just often gets lost somewhere. In this case, you would launch your mobile app, go onto the street, take a picture of it, write a quick description. That image gets geotagged. It finds its way when you submit it to the right person in the right department in the municipality. And then the system then tracks how that is addressed. That obviously then links to other systems within the suite, like our performance management systems, etc. So it's a really streamlined process, taking all these systems that speak to each other, which is, I think, is something that not too many people are offering. Maybe a SAP or other sort of big enterprise systems might do that, but they will probably lack the mobile application component.
Right. So I think that certainly for somebody with an IT background, I think that sounds really interesting. And I sincerely hope that product goes from strength to strength. Indeed, goes out internationally. Now, let me switch gears a little bit and talk about where the company and your enterprise is headed. What is in the future of Professia?
So, look, I'm a strong believer in conquering where you are first. I believe, many people have plans of sort of conquering wherever, but, conquering out there, but they're not necessarily dominating where you are. So that is our first thing. We want to dominate our region, so our province, for instance. So we've already started. If the South African public sector, I don't know if you call it industry or sector, is broken down into provincial departments, and then you've got municipalities, district municipalities, and local municipalities. The biggest of the local municipalities are metros. These are now sort of big metropolitan authorities for big metropolitan areas. So those are sort of your biggest. And we've been very fortunate to service the 2 metros in our province. So we've already sort of locked them. Then we are now expanding to other metros outside the country. So we're starting at that level. We're saying, look, let's grab the metros. Let's offer them the solution. And then from there on, we'll look to provincial departments. Then once we're sort of really entrenched in our local ecosystem, then we'll look at moving to other countries in the region, and then further abroad.
in the spirit of, trying to bring our fellow brothers and people wanting to walk in our footsteps along with us on the journeys that we're on, what would be your advice to anybody coming through, high school, primary, high school, in university, about to graduate? What would be advice to them in terms of how they ought to, I guess, plan for the future?
Well, I think the first step there for me is my sort of experience with not having to struggle to get a job, because a lot of my peers really struggle to get jobs. People finish university with the best of degrees and sit at home for more than a year hoping to get a job. So I think people need to wake up a bit sooner and not wait till the end of university to then start engaging with companies. No organization really will have an issue with having a student work there, even if it's for free. You say, look, I'll just come for free. Don't pay me, just for me to get experience. It's really, as a student, you are benefiting more than they'll benefit from you. So when you start to build that relationship, I think one thing that I could have done that might have been even better is maybe every year I would spend a year with one company, and then the next year I'll go to another company, so that at the end of my degree, I've got 3 CEOs or 4 or 5 CEOs who know me. So when I go there, it's not just a statistic who's coming to ask for a job. It's first name basis. I think that will be the first step to making it easier to transition into the corporate space. And so then after that, I think the other important thing is, oftentimes as a junior person, you can sort of be shoved into a back office and be given sort of, the scraps, the most insignificant work to do. You really need to be proactive. And this is what I did. I literally went to my employer and I said to them, look, I want to take on more serious work. I'm willing. I want to learn as much as possible. You don't just want to learn how to do the work, but you also want to learn the management side of things. You want to learn about running a firm. What does it take? What is required? So I approached my employer and I said that I want to engage clients. I want to do the invoicing clients, doing the contract management and all of that, So most employers will be more than happy to give you more work. I mean, I don't think there will be anybody out there who will say, no, you're asking for too much, They'll be more than happy to give you. And I think that's how you grow really fast. So those are the first things if you go in the employment route. And it's important because if you do go that route before you sort of branch out on your own, you want to learn as much as possible. You want to absorb as much as possible. Go to meetings with your boss. Don't let him just leave you in the office. So to ask him, say, hey, look, can I just carry your bag? I'll just carry and be a fly on the wall. And you'll see how they engage clients. You will learn how that happens. You'll learn how they deal with conflicts and issues, etc. So the main thing, there's a saying that I live by, and a number of them, but this is one of the main ones. It says, you only get what you're bold enough to ask for. That you need to be bold and just ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Even if you meet somebody who you want to mentor you, you might think, oh, this is this big guy, why will he want? But ask. The worst he'll say is no. The best is he'll say yes. So just ask. Go to your employer and say, I want to do more, I want to learn more. And most likely they will be more than happy to acquiesce to your request.
I think that is very sound advice. And I'd even go further and add this, because certainly in my case, and I know it's different for everybody, but what I found in my case was professional courses. It's amazing what professional courses on your CV will do. It's amazing how much of a differentiator it is when everybody has an architectural degree or an IT degree, engineering degree, and you've done project management, you've done some of these, cloud services, architecture courses. It's such a big deal, because guess what? Those are what the pros actually live and die by. To I guess, affirm and officiate the experience and the knowledge they have. And certainly I found that had I done more of those, it would have been such a big difference. So that would be my little bit I'd add on to that. So at this point, Ebenezer, thank you very much for taking the time to have a chat with me. All the very best in your future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.